Hello and welcome to the Project Bag podcast. This is episode 20 and there's been some shenanigans this week. On the show for you this week, I have 2 finished objects. Having 2 finished objects qualifies me clearly to cast on 2 new whips, and that is exactly what I've done. In podcast admin, I am excited to be launching a new cow for you today. The Fanclub Cow starts today. We have some really important community chat to share, so grab a cup of tea and settle in. And finally, I have a shop update. This will be the last update in which you can get my Aran yarn, so I hope you'll stick around to see the pretty. Well, hello, welcome back to returning viewers, welcome to new viewers. My name's Gemma, I am the maker, dyer, designer and tutor behind the Project Bag podcast, bags, yarns and patterns. And this is my little podcast about crafting, typically fibre arts, focusing primarily on knitting, although I have some crochet for you today. I do a bit of spinning, a bit of sewing, a bit of embroidery and whatever else is taking my fancy that week that I might decide to inflict on you lot. All the information where you can find me is just down below. I do hope you will consider checking out the other areas of the Project Bag community. The Ravelry group, for example, you'll have to be there for the cow, so I hope you'll join in. And my blog, which is weekly and goes up and has various different things. It is very different to the podcast. Instagram, if you want to see more of my face and my yarns, then that's the place to be. Talking about inflicting things on you, you won't know this, but I'm actually recording this for the second time. There will be a slight costume and lighting change halfway through the podcast today because I recorded it on Thursday night and then a series of unfortunate events occurred. It was quite late and on Thursday night, so I did the recording on Thursday night. Then on Friday, when I got in from my various appointments, I went to edit the podcast, discovered that I couldn't because I have misplaced the lead that attaches my external hard drive to my laptop. Cue frantic sorting out. The lounge looked like a bomb had hit it. But on the plus side, I've got all my whips sorted out into bags now and it's all beautiful and organised, or at least it was until I had to start recording again and I've just pulled everything out. Couldn't find it. So that was last night, wasn't it? Yes, that was last night. Today's Saturday. So this morning I woke up extra early and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to start editing it from my phone straight onto my computer. I know the hard drive of my computer is a little bit pushed for space, but it should be fine. It's going to be fine. And my gallant husband had offered to trek out the first thing this morning for when the shop's open to get a new lead for said hard drive. So, you know, I do so, bleary-eyed, matchsticks, all the rest of it this morning. And for some reason, the first file wouldn't import into the podcast correctly. I thought, well, that's okay. It's probably just out of space. That's not a problem. I'll do it when Alan gets home. The file's obviously too big for the computer to handle. So there I am, and he gets home, and I am proudly showing off the fact that I have edited the first half of the podcast and I'm ready to go. Plug in the hard drive, save the file over, go to move the file over that wouldn't import, and it's corrupted. And there's nothing that can be done because I didn't copy and paste it from my phone over to the computer. I cut and paste it. Yeah. So here I am, talking to you for the second time in a week, not that you will know that. And for those of you that think it might mean it's more polished, I wouldn't hold your breath. I have had one of those days today already, as I've just told you. There we go. So having said that, it might actually be a good thing that I'm recording again, because when I recorded on Thursday, it was super late and I had just got in from my friends where I'd been for dinner and a knit and a catch up, and it was really, really lovely. And there might have been gin. Yeah, there was gin. So I was a little bit giddy when I got in that night and was recording the podcast. I was a little bit more hyper, bouncing off the walls just a little bit. For new viewers to the podcast, I promise I don't normally record under the influence and then delete files and do all sorts of crazy things. It's normally a little bit more sensible than that, although perhaps not much. But yeah, it was really good. I must admit, I'm not a big drinker. I don't typically drink at all. So yeah, I felt that. So maybe this is a plus. Okay, shall we get on then? Here we are. So this week's mug is my lovely You Make Me Smile mug, which was my Christmas present from my lovely friend Myra. And it just seems really appropriate because you guys make me smile when I sit and talk to you. And it is becoming more of a two-way conversation now, which is wonderful. Seeing more of you in Ravelry and joining in the group and commenting down below and yeah, popping up on Instagram. It's really nice, and it's nice to see what you guys are up to, hear your guys' thoughts on things. Your guys? I mean, who are your guys? Who are they? Tell me about your guys. Goodness gracious. Oh. But anyway, hearing your thoughts on the things that we talk about, it's lovely, and I really do. I really do look forward to it. It is one of the highlights of my week to sit and record and chat with you wonderful people. So here's to you. Okay, I know I didn't have like an acquisitions thing in my thingamabob at the start of the episode. Don't know why I'm pointing over there. Apparently starts over there. But I just had to talk about this, right? Because for once, Gemma Mills is on trend, folks. Oh yes, she is. Oh yes. I was out shopping the other week and I can't think why I decided to do this, but I just decided to treat myself to a new lippy. Here it is. And the colour of the year, Pantone's colour of the year is coral. And what do you think this is, ladies and gents? Craving coral. That doesn't happen very often. Gemma's on trend. Oh yes. And no, I didn't set out to colour match my lipstick to Pantone's colour of the year. If I did, this could be very interesting year on year because I'm quite certain they are not all appropriate lipstick shades. Although it depends on your opinion of appropriate. A certain Kitty Glitter, for example, would say any colour goes, and she can pull it off. So there we are, ladies and gents. I am on trend for once. Here we are. And speaking of on trend and up to date, I have finished objects again. I know. No, I don't know who I am either. Everything else is going to pot in my life, but apparently I can deliver finished objects in 2019. I have not one but two finished objects, which feature not one but two pom-poms. Oh, I have never made a pom-pom. Okay, well, no, I'm lying to you. I have a vague, like really, really vague recollection of making a pom-pom at brownies many years ago. Jo, do you do anything like that with your brownies and guides? I seem to remember it going quite well. It was in the days, the deep, dark, distant days before the pom-pom maker, which is apparently, you know, the tool that everyone needs. To the point myself. So we did it with cereal boxes cut out into circles and did some sort of magic with it. And so yeah, that was that. I have a vague recollection of that pom-pom having worked. Then next time I attempted a pom-pom was that's in the word pom-pom. Pom-pom, 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 pom-pom. Oh dear. So the next time I attempted a pom-pom, I was actually hosting a summer crafternoon tea party for breast cancer. Goodness knows what breast cancer is. I don't think that's actually a thing, and if it isn't, then it doesn't need to be. It can just stay not being existent. Yeah, anyway, breast cancer afternoon tea party. Crafternoon tea party. Good grief. Okay, this was actually going better when I had a gin. So believe me, you're not missing any of the madness. Oh, and the idea was to make pom-poms. One of my friends was expecting her first daughter and she wanted to make a pom-pom rug, and we thought, oh, that'd be fun. Everyone could come and make a pom-pom and we could all contribute to this, and it'd be a nice harmless make and take and brilliant. And yeah, I didn't make a pom-pom, I made a mess. Everyone else was producing these wonderful pom-poms. Some of them used pom-pom makers, some of them did it more traditionally, and you know, respect to the traditionals here. Oh yes. No newfangled technology here, thank you very much. And I dutifully did it, and I don't know what I did, but it just disintegrated and ended up with loads of bit of pom fluff on the floor. And yeah, so I gave it up as a bad job and just focused on making the tea for everyone and serving cake. And there was a lot of tea and cake required. So it had been gloriously sunny. Oh, getting comfortable. It had been gloriously sunny all week. And then the day of the crafternoon tea dawned, and we were out there. Some friends had come around early to help me set up because they are such good eggs like that. And we were building benches because that's what you do on the morning of a crafternoon, and then the heavens opened and boy did it rain. So I ended up with 20 odd people crammed into my fairly small living room and dining room, including 2 little ones that were crawling about all over the place because my 2 god babies were there as well. It was a great afternoon, but needless to say, I kind of thought that's where my relationship with pom-poms was going to end. I'll make the tea, other people make the pom-poms. But then I came across this pattern and I knit it, and I realised that a pom-pom needed to happen. So let's get on and show you. So to go with my 2 pom-poms, I have 2 hats. Aren't they so cute? Oh, there's a story behind this as well. It's an afternoon of stories. Are we sitting comfortably? Let's start with this one because this is the actual hat in question. This is, as far as I'm aware, as yet unnamed, by Phanessa Fong, who is a lovely, talented designer. She seems to be specialising in hats at the minute. There's lots of gorgeous hats all over her feed, and she's churning out new patterns like nobody's business. She's seriously very, very creative. And she advertised just before Christmas for testers for this here hat. And I thought, you know what, I have got several toddlers in my life. There's a toddler size that she needed people to test for. Perfect, I will throw my hat into the ring. She very, very kindly accepted my application. I was very excited, and I waited for the pattern to arrive in my inbox. Then there was a slight issue in that my inbox stopped showing me when I'd got new emails in the browser that I was using. So in Chrome, it just stopped. It wouldn't let me click on an email. It wasn't telling me that which emails had come through. I mean, I could see some, but not many. And I certainly couldn't do anything with them. And then I was trying to work it out and sort it. And I saw, so this is after Christmas at this point, and I saw a notification come through about the pattern saying, you know, there's no, it's not ready to be released yet. There's something else happening to it. So I thought, oh, phew, I haven't missed anything. Great. And then it came through again, another notification, and it said due 1st of the 3rd, 2019. I thought, well, that's quite a long time, but she's made some tweaks to it, so maybe that's why. Maybe she's just pushing it back a bit. Fair enough. Phew, I've got time. And so then but I still hadn't had the pattern itself. And then I finally got my email working. I had to work it on a new browser, which actually isn't as simple as it sounds because my security is actually really tight. And it was so tight that it turns out not only I couldn't get into it, but my email provider also couldn't get into it themselves. So that was fun. I eventually sorted it out with the help of my very kind and patient dad, who has endless patience for my technocratism. And there it was, there was the pattern. It had been sitting there for over a month and I was horrified. And I saw again, though, it said due 1st of the 3rd, 2019. I thought, at least I've got time. So I emailed Phanessa because there were responses coming back about the pattern. And I said, I'm really sorry, I've only just got hold of this because my email inbox corrupted. I'm going to get onto this now. And she said, okay, thank you. And then a couple of days later, I got an email, have you finished yet? And I was thinking, oh, okay. I mean, I was quite surprised. I mean, obviously, you know, as designers, we want feedback, but I was surprised that in January we were asking already. And I thought, well, I am working on it. So I didn't reply. I thought I'll finish the hat and I'll reply then. And so I did it. I did it in the same day. On the same day, I realised my mistake. I'm British. And over here, we write our dates day, month, year. And that is also how we write it when we write it numerically. Phanessa is not British. She is from somewhere where they write the month, day, year. So what I thought was the 1st of March 2019 and was exceedingly generous for a chunky knit hat was actually the 3rd of January. And I was very nearly 2 weeks late. Yeah. I was absolutely mortified, and I still am so embarrassed by my idiocy at not realising that's when it was actually due. I had already got the hat finished. Obviously I did it that day as soon as I got the pattern, and I did email her back and explain and say I'm really, really sorry. But yeah, I think I'm forgiven. I'm not entirely sure. But either way, I just wanted to share the hat. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got this beautiful embroidery design. It is a super chunky hat. It comes in a range of sizes, baby, toddler, child. I think she has adult as well. Super chunky. It's super quick. I mean, there's absolutely no reason on earth it would need more than a week to do the turnaround, and actually that's what it said initially, a week's turnaround. But yeah, obviously series of events. And it features, I'm not going to give it away, but it features this beautiful embroidery stitch here. I would say that actually a beginner could manage this. You've got to be okay with knitting in the round, you've got to be okay with decreases and yarn overs, but I would quite happily give this to my beginners to work with. And yeah, it's really lovely. There are a couple of minor modifications. Let's tuck in my ends there. Ends don't get sewn in on this show. The first bit of which is that when I got the pattern and realised my mistake, I immediately went to cast it on, and it actually calls for super chunky yarn and I had none. So what I did is I held together a grey and a white of this, or grey and a cream of this gorgeous Wendy Serenity chunky yarn, which has a slight halo to it and slight fuzz, as you can see. For once, that isn't cat hair, that's alpaca. It's a wool alpaca and I think a little bit of acrylic blend. Super soft and squidgy, and I held them together to create this, well, I mean, chunky and chunky makes double chunky, right? So can't be too far from super chunky, I think. But yeah, to create this mild effect, which actually I'm really pleased with. I think it's worked really well. Yeah, so I did that and added my pom-pom. It was really quick, an absolute joy to knit. I would heartily recommend that you follow Phanessa on Instagram. She's on there as Designs by Phanessa. She's got a huge range of patterns and they are all really aesthetically pleasing, and a lot of them are chunky as well, which is great for those last minute knits. And of course, so this is for my baby goddaughter Mia for her 2nd birthday, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks today actually. And pull my hair off of it. So yeah, although I now have to call her the god toddler apparently, because she's not really a baby anymore. Oh, you're growing up so fast. And so therefore I also had to do one for my baby godson Kit, who is her brother, her twin brother, and I was about to say whose birthday is also coming up. Well, duh, of course it is, they're twins. So I just did this to differentiate between the two of them. I just did this hat plain and just with the pom-pom on top as well. So this is all Phanessa's Maths, but without the embroidery star stitch around the hat itself. And there we are, 2 hats for 2 babies. And they're going to look so cute. I really can't wait to give them to them. In fact, what I want to do, right, is I want to give them to them, make them put them on, and then come up with some reason for them to run around, because I just want to see this. Just see them running around with the pom-poms going. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Oh, do you know what? I'm sitting here talking to you about this, and I'm remembering that for some reason on the first recording of the podcast, I ended up having this whole discussion with you about twins and being identical or non-identical. I can't remember how it came up, but I'm smiling to myself because actually, yeah, we have been asked before if my twin god babies, Kit and Mia, boy and girl, are identical. So, but as I won't go into it now, because after going into it in the first recording, I found myself explaining that, of course, this is not a biology podcast. It's a barely coherent, making some stuff podcast, and so I'll stick to that. Okay, so we are going to move ahead to whips now. I have a couple of whips that have seen some action in the past fortnight since I uploaded. The first one has been really back and forth. It is living in one of my project bags. This was the prototype bag. In fact, no, this wasn't the prototype. This was one that actually was going into the shop, and then the cat trod on it with a muddy paw, and so it became mine. Actually, I really like it. Actually, I also made a mistake because it was meant to be polka dot on the outside and stripy on the inside, but I sewed it in back to front, so yeah, you know. Living in there is my old school sock. My testers have been absolutely incredible with this. Hutch and Ellen have both finished, and my other two lovely testers are hot on their heels, and I've only done one sock. So I thought I should really crack on and finish my own sock pattern, so I had them to wear. So here we are. You can see the pattern there, simple lace. I am racing down the leg, wondering why I decided to do a slightly longer leg than normal this week, to be honest with you. And this week, this sock, because now I'm regretting it. So yeah, the old school sock pattern will be available at the end of the month, at the start of February, and I will obviously put that on my Ravelry page. It's on my Ravelry designer page, which you can find just down below. The page, not the pattern. And yeah, so look out for that one. My lovely testers are using a range of my hand dyed yarns to test them in for me, and I am using, because you know, what do you do when you're designing a pattern and you are a yarn dyer as well? Well, you use someone else's yarn, don't you? Well, I just love this yarn. This is by Amy, who is the dyer behind Stranded Dye Works, and it is her colourway Vintage Christmas, and I just think it is so lovely for spring. I know it's Vintage Christmas, but it's minty and gorgeous. So there we are. I now have a bit of whip woe for you. I cannot remember if I've already shown this to you last episode, and I'm not going back now to check, but I don't think that I had quite finished the second front of my so-called Calypso cardigan. I have now finished it. Hooray! Hold your horses, don't cheer just yet. I have a slight problem. Because this has taken me so long to knit, I've been picking it up and putting it down. Apparently my tension changes as time goes on. Maybe it depends how cold I am or how tired I am or something like that. And I've been doing this for months, and apparently my tension changed because see the problem? Yeah. This shouldn't have happened. It's not, the thing is with this pattern, it is not knit to a certain number of inches, it is knit a certain number of rows. So you start by doing 27 rows of rib, then you do 98 rows of stocking stitch with a little bit of something at the edge. Then you place a marker and carry on knit another 55 rows of stocking stitch. So the rows are exactly the same. The problem is my tension has changed, and that means my row tension has changed, and that means my rows are shorter, and I've ended up with that. So I'm not entirely sure what to do. I mean, a quick tug kind of almost sorts it out. So I'm not sure if maybe I should just block this side and hope for the best and sew it together and see what happens. I'm thinking about doing that. It's got quite a bit of a spring to it, so we'll have to see. Maybe I'll get away with it, but the fronts and the back are done, and I'm about to move on to the sleeves, and I so want this to be done so I can give it to my lovely friend that I'm kind of thinking I might just take the risk, and if need be I will pull it out and redo that front if need be, but maybe see if I can get away with it first. It is called, or I'm calling it the Calypso cardigan because it is knit from King Cole Calypso yarn. It is an acrylic commercial yarn. I wouldn't necessarily use it myself, but it's what my friend had bought and wanted to use. It is really pretty. It kind of comes up with this blue and white mild effect, but it is also quite kinky. And as you can see there is a definite ripple to this yarn in the twist, a definite kink to it. And I don't really like it because I am kind of obsessive about my stocking stitch looking neat, and the kinkiness of this just doesn't look amazing. I mean, I think for someone who doesn't have slight OCD about this sort of thing, it probably looks absolutely lovely, and I think the overall effect is lovely, but it's just upsetting me that in plain stocking stitch it's quite kinky and not very neat, really. So yeah, there we are. So yeah, I'm probably going to give that a go and see if it works, see if blocking out will help. I'm not entirely sure how much stretch it will have being acrylic. It does have quite a lot of spring because of the kinkiness of the yarn, so we'll see how we go. Now, long-term viewers of the podcast will remember that I had a hoe not so long ago, my Selbu mitten, which is designed by Ellie, who is Skein Knits, and these are Skein Designs or Skein Knits Designs. She has the Skein podcast. It's lovely. She's very, very knowledgeable. She's a Norwegian living and knitting in London, and she is such a lovely person as well. I've had the great pleasure of hanging out with her a couple of times, and I'm looking forward to catching up with her again soon. This is my first colourwork mitten. I love it. And people who viewed the podcast before will know that the last time I uploaded, I said that I would have the second mitten at least cast on by the next podcast. Now, obviously that was meant to be last week, and I just want to say right here, it was done by last week. Cast on and joined in the round. That's it, but I've done it. So nothing really to show you there, and I'm saying again now that by the next time I podcast, I'm planning on being to there. Okay, hold me to it. I know certain of you will. I've had some very nice messages before about whether or not I've managed to cast on the second mitten, and yeah, so I know some of you will keep me to my word there. Looking at you, Ellen. And that is living in my Yarns of Anarchy bag, which was made by the lovely Emma, who is Emma's Nice Things on Instagram, and it is my pin badge bag. So I don't have many, but the ones I have are special and treasured. So yeah, I'm a particular fan of this one. Bit naughty. But there we are. I think everyone needs a spray like that in their lives. There's a lot of it about, so a quick zap could sort it out, couldn't it? Okay, so I am going to pass over to Gemma of the past now, because she's going to carry on and talk to you about the next whip, which is also a new cast on. Looby loo, hope you're excited. I will see you all another time, and pass over to Gemma of the past. See you in a bit. You may remember that before Christmas, I think it was actually November, I took delivery of these gorgeous colours of yarn, and I am doing a commission for this lovely podcast viewer and generally beautiful lady who is just such a good soul. Absolutely adores her kids, and she wanted this jacket crocheted for her daughter, and I volunteered for the role. I don't typically take commissions, but I wanted to try crocheting this garment. It looks really fun, and kind of selfishly I wanted to do that. And also, you know, it gives me some crochet to talk about on the podcast, because I know some of you enjoy that too, so win-win. I don't typically take commissions. As I say, I don't get a lot of time. I am hopeless with time limits, as you saw with, you know, me not even reading the date correctly on Phanessa's hat test knit, which I just... oh, I'm still cringing about, and I think I will for a long time. But as I say, this was working really well for me. She wasn't in a mad rush to have it. She understood that it would be quite a while before she necessarily got it, and very, very kindly, because I didn't want to accept any payment for it, has donated to my daughter's legacy, which we are Lara's legacy, and we're raising money for Bliss in Lara's memory. So lots and lots of good reasons for me to do this, plus her Instagram feed just makes me smile. She adores her kids, she's so smiley, she's human like the best of us and the rest of us. And it means a lot to me to be able to make this for her little girl as well, who is such a spunky little kid. She's so cool. Here we are. Anyway, all that to say, I'm knitting. I'm crocheting this garment, and I am loving it. There's not a lot to show because I was zooming along, and then I managed to misplace my crochet hook, and I only have one 5mm crochet hook. So yeah, I had to wait, but here we are. Wow, that's looking bright. So as you can see, I'm working on the skirt of this jacket. Started there, and I think it's that way round, and I think you just work round and do the skirt, and then obviously you've got this flat edge at the top, excuse all the ends, this flat edge at the top, and you pick up and then create the jacket bodice that way. So I have started off with orange, which is really going bright on this screen, and then this beautiful sagey green, which I think is actually called pistachio. I did also have this colour, which is aspen, which I love, but it only calls for 4, the pattern. So I have settled on the orange, the pistachio, which I'm using, the pink and the lilac, and I had to get the pink in there because Lubilu is a massive pink fan. Her little sweetie isn't madly keen on pink. She knows what she likes, this little girl, but I just had to, as a nod to her mummy, sneak a little bit of pink in there. So hopefully this little dot will not mind too much and can forgive me. But the main body is going to be in this gorgeous denim blue anyway, so it's literally just the flashes of colour that hopefully will be a bit of fun for her playtime and keep her toasty warm. I am using Stylecraft Special Aran Weight. It is an acrylic yarn. It is what was always one of my favourite commercial yarns to work with because it has great stitch definition, it washes up beautifully, and it's nice and hard wearing. Personally, I won't necessarily be using that sort of yarn much anymore. I'm thinking very carefully now about the sorts of fibres I'm using. It's not so much about buying indie dyed versus commercial, it's more about the fibre content and what that means for me. There's going to be some more talk about this with my not my mindfulness, although mindfulness does come into it, my minimalist maker series on the not on the podcast, this is the podcast, oh my goodness, on the blog. On the blog, okay, if you haven't seen it yet, I tied in my cutlery drawer. It makes me very happy. There's a blog post about it. Feel free to go and check it out. God. Maybe I should get more gin. Maybe that's what I need. If you can hear a strange noise, my cat has just climbed into my studio lights bag because my studio lights bag has, we've dared to leave it on the chair that he likes to sit on. So rather than sitting on the chair, because there's plenty of the chair left, it's not all taken over by the studio lights bag. No, he's curled up inside it. And he's now looking at me going, well, what are you going to do about it? It's on my chair. So what am I going to do? It's on my chair. I've got to sit on it. You asked for it. Cats with attitude. Cattitude. That's what he's got. Cattitude. Anyway, back to this. Loving the colours. It's so cheerful. It's working up so quickly. And Lubilu, I'm using your Instagram handle to talk to you. I know that, but I love it for one thing. Lubilu. It's a brilliant word to say. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to make this for your little girl. You know, I know how precious it is for making things for your daughter, and I'm really pleased that you have chosen me to make this for your little princess. Here we are. Look back for more progress next week. Okay, so that's it for creative content. I have started a cross stitch, a little thing, but there is nothing really to show you, so I'm not going to do that today. I think I'll show you next time when there's more than 6. Well, to be fair, I've done like 60 stitches, but it's still not much in the grand scheme of things. So next week there's going to be some cross stitch. With regards to level up, I've got nothing for you this week. There's some brilliant talk though in the Ravelry group, people starting to share tips, which is lovely. So if there is a skill that you want to work on this year and level up, do pop over to that thread in the Ravelry group and join in the chat, because what you might want to improve on, someone else might actually have the skills and know-how, and equally you might have the skills and know-how to help someone out who wants to try something that you can do. So that's really lovely. Other podcasting news, we are launching the Fanclub Cow today. I am so excited by this. Crochet is allowed, and knitting is allowed, spinning is allowed. I'm actually also going to say things like cross stitch and sewing are allowed. I want everything like that, is great. The basic idea is you make something to say honour sounds a bit, you know, a bit OTT, but as a nod to something that you really like, that you are a fan of, say, oh, let's go in honour of then, yeah? So it could be a book series, it could be a film, it could be a person, it could be a music style, anything that you are a fan of and that means something to you. If you can somehow work that into your crafting, then it counts for the Fanclub Cow. It's entirely selfish, me doing this one. I want an excuse to knit the sweater that lived, Hermione's everyday socks, and my Ellie's Nelly socks in my Gryffindor colourway. So I'm being completely selfish. Yes, it's got a huge Harry Potter theme. Harry Potter means a lot to me. I kind of grew up with him. I was in year 5 when Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone came out. Just going to leave that there for a minute. Consider how old I am now. Consider how old that book is. Oh yes. Don't you all feel old now? You're welcome. I was in year 5 when the first one came out. I remember my teacher, Mrs. Rock, reading it to us, and I was just sat there absolutely rapt. I mean, she was a fantastic storyteller anyway. She was quite quietly spoken, and her voice was kind of soft and mellifluous, and she was amazing. I absolutely, one of my magic weavers, Mrs. Rock. And yeah, so I kind of grew up reading Harry Potter and waiting for the next book to come out. And I'll talk more about this another time because it's very late. But yeah, so Harry Potter's my thing. What else? Outlander. There's lots of Outlandery things coming out. It could be inspired. You could be a fan of, you could be a fan of like the Victorian era and perhaps want to make a shawl. You could be Charles Dickens. It could be that you are a fan of our wartime knitters and want to knit socks. Like, I think I might be going a bit vague here, but something that you are a fan of that means something to you. As long as you can do that, then it qualifies for this cow. Anything remotely stitchy counts. I like being multi-craftual. I am not going to be running this in the Facebook group, so it is going to be fibre arty and sewing related. I've got no idea if Ravelry's goes through and takes things like cross-stitch pictures off of individual threads in groups. As far as I'm concerned, I think because it's my group, I can make up the rules. I think you can put pictures of cross stitches and things in there and sewing projects and things in there as well. So it definitely counts. We are going to do one post per person for the finished objects this time, just to kind of even it out a little bit because we've got more and more people joining in, which is lovely. So yeah, one post per person. Chatter thread I will also probably draw prizes from as well, because this is going to be until pretty much the end of the year. It's going to be until the Great Festive Cast On 2019, which will be the 1st of October. So it's running from today, which is the 25th of January, until the 1st of October 2019. That gives us to February to March to April to May to June to July to September. It gives us 7 months. So I will probably pull a prize or two from the chatter thread as well. Again, obviously, the more the chat and support each other, the more chances you have. So there we are. Get talking, guys. Prizes will be confirmed as we go through the cow. If you are a maker, dyer, sewer, creator, anything like that, and you have a prize you would like to donate to the podcast for this, then please do get in touch. It would be lovely to hear from you and also to showcase your work and not just mine. Right. Finally, now we're going to talk community. Have you got your cuppa? So I didn't podcast last week. I was having some personal issues. I couldn't keep all the plates spinning, and the podcast was the one that dropped. But since I last spoke with you, there have been some quite heavy discussions in the crafty knitty world, particularly via Instagram. It was sparked by some thoughtless writing, unintentional but thoughtless nonetheless, and it created this discussion about inclusiveness and racism, not to put too fine a point on it, in the crafting community and crafting world. Now, as someone who curates a little corner of said crafting world, I just wanted to reiterate my expectations. Now, I say reiterate as though I've said them before, and I haven't explicitly, and that's honestly because I thought that they were pretty standard standards that everyone would adhere to. While a lot of the issue does seem to be the result of ignorance, and there's talk about algorithms and things like that as well, there have been some clear instances of intolerance within the community where people have been quite outspoken. So let me just say that as far as I'm concerned, here at the Project Bag, we are inclusive. Everybody is welcome, whether you are white, person of colour, British, rich, poor, gay, straight, LGBTQ, full of stuff and nonsense like me, anything like that, okay? You are welcome. Every single one of you is welcome, okay? And I would hope that you would join me in creating a safe space where everyone can be who they are and also share their love of fibre arts, knitting, yarn, all the things that we come here for. I was worried about, well, not worried, I was wondering about how to say this, but Caroline, who has done it and has the Knitting Vicariously podcast, pretty much did it brilliantly. She basically said, if you don't like it, the fact that this is a tolerant space where everybody is welcome, and if you don't like the fact that I will go through and delete any comments that are going to make anyone feel really marginalised or uncomfortable, then by all means hit the thumbs down button as you leave. And actually I'm going to echo that pretty much word for word. Everyone is welcome here, provided you are committing to making everybody else welcome too. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. I am not for one moment suggesting we shouldn't have conversations or ask questions, but we have a responsibility with our opinions and with free speech not to do harm. And if you are causing someone to feel unwelcome or that they don't fit in, then I'm sorry, but actually you're the person that doesn't fit in. Okay? And as I say, I know that's a bit serious and a bit deep and a bit heavy, but it's important and it has to be said. I thought, and maybe this is my white privilege here, ignorantly, that everyone would be as welcoming as everybody else. I was horrified by some of the things that I have seen that have been said over the past few weeks, and actually stories that have come up that have happened to people in the past. And I was horrified not because of being in a position of being white and being privileged, although I undoubtedly am, but because to me it doesn't compute that anyone could be so unkind to their fellow human being. That's what I mean by horrified and surprised and shocked, because it just doesn't sit with me. I cannot wrap my head around why anyone would be unkind to anybody else in that way, and I really hope that you feel the same here too. I am a teacher by trade. I have a responsibility within my classroom to create a safe space, and I do deal with issues of racism and homophobia on a weekly basis. A lot of it is accidental, by which I mean maybe people are parroting things, like young people are parroting things that they've heard outside, or they use words without really understanding what they mean. And we have to have those discussions and educate. And I think that's a lot of what's been going on in the community lately. We've been having those discussions, we've been educating ourselves, and that is really, really important. I think the main thing for me that I'm going to do differently is, as I said, actively say out loud, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, these are my values. If you want to be part of the Project Bag community, wonderful, it's so lovely to have you, but you need to be aware of those values, and by being a part of this community you are agreeing to stand by those and have those too. Okay, I'm not going to do anything too differently myself, because I'm certainly not a paragon of virtue. There's certainly a lot of things that I'm ignorant about, but I was already following the diversity hashtag since Nathan Taylor, who's Sockmatician, came up with it, I think over a year ago. And I found it really interesting. And because I follow that hashtag, I actually see a lot more diverse range of makers, crafters, dyers, creators than I was beforehand, and that's really interesting to me. And actually there's been talk of algorithms and this idea that actually the internet is programmed to show us what it thinks we will like, and how it works that out is it looks at us. So if you have set your nationality to white British, for example, then the algorithm's gonna throw up things with the same nationality. Just the same as if you set your hobbies to crafts, knitting, crochet, your targeted ads are gonna come up with things like that: crafts, knitting, crochet, hobbycraft, you know, sewing companies, all that sort of thing. So in the fact that the internet does its job and carefully curates ads to you, because obviously it wants you to spend more time on its service, see more ads, get more revenue, it's a business, that actually does discriminate against other people, so you won't see that diverse range. So what I would suggest, if you are thinking about how you can support our community being more inclusive, is actually following the diversity hashtag would be a really good start, because you will see a huge range of makers, posts from different makers, and you could go and find out about them in the same way as you find out about other makers so far on Instagram. You might click on a post, think, oh, that looks really interesting, I'll click on that and find out a bit more about them, see a few more posts, think, oh, I really like what they do, and then you choose to follow. It would be the same thing. Personally, I feel uncomfortable with the idea of just going and following someone because we want to be more inclusive and they are a person of colour or LGBTQ. I feel like that's devaluing the work that they do as individuals. So for me, I'm not just going to follow people blindly. I absolutely enjoy looking at a range of makers, and the diversity hashtag has really changed my experience on Instagram lately. But it's the same as anything for me. If I like the work that they're producing, if I like the aesthetic, if this is what I want to see, if I admire their work ethic, then they're going to be someone I want to follow. Case in point, I've been following the lovely Sofia, who is Drunk Knitter, for quite a while. I actually feel an affinity with her, not just because she's starting out on this creative journey at a similar time to me, but she is absolutely working her butt off. She has some amazing patterns that she's come out with already. I love her aesthetic. She is a joy to listen to. She's so cheerful but self-effacing and human, and she's just someone I love spending time with virtually by watching her podcast. I personally feel an affinity with her, and I'm not saying anything out of turn here. She's been very open about it herself, because both of us have become bereaved parents this year, and that's added to that sense of connection as well. So yeah, I'm probably not doing a very good job of expressing myself. Let me say something that I saw on the Sockmatician podcast. Shortly after the diversity hashtag came up, someone got in touch with Nathan, and he talked about this on his podcast and said, please don't follow me just because I'm black. And I think that's really important. Let's not devalue the work that people are doing and put into it. I would hope that you don't follow me just because you like the colour of my hair or because I'm white. I would hope that if you choose to follow the podcast and you choose to follow my work, it's because you actually like the content that I'm putting out, and that appeals to you. And I think it's the same with anything, really. We want to avoid just shallow tokenism and not devalue the work that people are doing. I'm in danger of really rambling with this now and possibly getting it wrong. I apologise sincerely if I am not phrasing this very well. I have put a lot of thought into what I was going to say tonight. I haven't written a script, and because of that, because there is an element of extemporisation, there is a very strong possibility that I have unwittingly said something that may be hurtful to someone. And if If I have, I'm incredibly sorry. Please do feel free to reach out with a private message and just let me know so that I can address this in the future. But for now, let's just leave it as saying the Project Bag has always been and will continue to be an inclusive community space where everyone is welcome, regardless of anything that makes you an individual. And I want to celebrate our work and celebrate our differences, as well as the shared love that we have of the fibre arts. If anyone is unkind to anyone else, then they will be requested to remove themselves from our community. I will not police every comment and conversation, because conversations are important, but I will remove comments that are hurtful or cause other people pain. Okay, so that's that. I think the only other thing I want to say on the matter of inclusivity is actually I've found this community to be incredibly welcoming and incredibly healing. When I joined, I was incredibly broken, and it helped me with my mental health. And then obviously when I went through my own personal tragedy earlier last year with the loss of my daughter, I found again the community to be really welcoming and healing for me, and people accepting me as I am, a bit broken, emotionally battered, prone to bursting into tears, and it needs to be like that for everybody. That love, that warmth, that community feeling, everybody deserves that. And hopefully now that conversations are happening and awareness is being spread, because I certainly wasn't aware of a lot of the issues that people face. I mean, I don't know, I knew that there would be these issues, but I hadn't seen them, and I was naively thinking that perhaps this was one area of the world where craft was bringing people together, and actually it was a little bit different and a little bit better. As discussed, whether intentionally or not, it is not the case, and so now we have a duty to do something about it. And like I say, I have found this space to be healing and warm and welcoming and very, very good for me, soul, mind, body, all the rest of it. And I really hope that we can make that way for everybody. Love you all. Okay, so there is only one thing left for me to share with you this week, and that is my shop update news. I'm going to be having a shop update this Saturday, the 26th of January, mid-afternoon time. I can't be exact, but I will put it up on my Instagram stories when it's about to go live and when I know the time a bit better. So I just thought I'd share with you some of my new colourways. I did a poll on Instagram a few weeks ago to find out how you prefer to shop when you are buying indie dyed yarn. I wanted to know if I should put out sweater quantities or if people preferred 1 or 2 skeins at a time. And overwhelmingly the response was 1 or 2 skeins. So I've totally run with that, and I've had so much fun playing in the dye pots these last few weeks. It's been such a tonic when I've come in from a tough day at the day job to just hang loose, break bad, as my husband calls it, when I put my mask on, and come up with some fun colourways. And I would like to share a couple of them with you now, just a bit of a teaser as to what you can expect. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk about my Aran base. It is merino, cashmere and nylon Aran. It is super squishy and sumptuous and gorgeous and just, oh, but I am retiring it after this shop update. So whatever is in the shop that goes in this Saturday or is in there already, once it's gone, it is gone, and it will not be coming back until the autumn. So if you are in the market for some Aran, as well as the colours I showed you last week, which do feel free to pop back and have a look at those, I have these interesting colourways. First of all, I have 2 one-of-a-kinds for you. This is unnamed, but it's this beautiful kind of apple blossom green, quite tonal, some speckles in there, just the odd speckle or 2, just to keep it interesting, and there we are. The second is this kind of cherry, strawberry, raspberry, ripply type colourway. Again, quite tonal, peaches, reds, pinks. Mermaid Lagoon, which I'm hoping to make repeatable, but that again won't be until the autumn. It's coming up quite a rich blue here. It's actually much paler than that. I can't see a way of making it come up as pale as it is. But again, it's really tonal. It's got purples and teals and turquoises and pale blue, and it's just absolutely gorgeous and such a lot of fun. Repeatable colourway. This is Fairies in the Back Row, or Fairy Kisses. which you have seen before on DK and on sock, but not on my merino cashmere Aran. Merino cashmere nylon Aran. I only have the one skein of this up. I have two skeins of a brand new colourway, which I'm hoping to make repeatable. It hasn't got a name yet, but here we are. As you can see, absolutely beautiful. Blues, purples, teals, little flashes of bits here and there. And it is just absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I'm trying to find the best angle to show it to you from, where you can see just all the colours in there. Okay, that's it for Aran. Let me show you a couple of my other colourways. I have Fairies in the Back Row on sock. It goes really beautifully with this one of a kind. Again, unnamed. Then again, it also goes quite well with Fuchsia, which is here on sock. As you can see, it's got quite a lot of pink in it. There is the same pink in here, it's just twisted up differently. I have this beauty. This is going to be repeatable. It is, at the moment, there's only one skein of it that's going into the shop. I've only completed one skein. This is going to be called Myra, so named after the lady who helped me come up with it. I have two skeins of Aurora Borealis going in. These are dyed one at a time, and because of the way in which I dye them, each time they do come out slightly differently, or quite differently, but you can still recognise it as Aurora Borealis, which I absolutely love. I have two one-of-a-kinds here. You can just about see they are different blues. I have a couple of skeins of each, and they do go quite nicely with this gorgeous one, which was meant to be peacock but came out completely wrong. It's nowhere near as saturated as normal, so yeah, that's not peacock, it's something else that isn't peacock. Maybe I'll call it Isn't Peacock. But they also go quite nicely together as a three as well. I have another currently one of a kind, a beautiful tonal green. This one is called Defying Gravity, and I'm hoping to bring it back, but I want to make some tweaks to it. So this is Defying Gravity Mark 1. Another old favourite returning is Cinder Dragon. I love this one. Hutch is actually knitting her old school socks out of this yarn, so if you want to see how it knits up, hopefully you're following her stories. Finally, I want to introduce to you my favourite new colourway. It's quite different. It's quite surprising. You might not expect it from my usual aesthetic, but here we are. This is Opium. Beautiful. We have got bright red, deep black, because yep, you can have shades of black, into greys, into this kind of dirty, reddy, pinky colour, and it is just, I just absolutely love it. I have two skeins of this. It is more than likely going to be repeatable if I can remember what I did. This is the problem with playing in the dye pots and having lots of fun. I can't actually remember what I did. I didn't write it down. I just wanted to have fun this time and just do something a bit for me and be a bit creative, and I'm so pleased with what I've come up with. The problem is I'm so pleased with what I've come up with and I wish I'd written it down. So yeah, just two skeins of Opium in there. This has not been reskeined. This is how it looks. And I really wanted to show that. So you've got the end where it's all tied together, so it's slightly tatty at the bottom, but it is called Opium. And for those of you that don't know, opium is actually a drug that is pulled from the poppy plant. So when I saw the black and red and how vibrant it was and that kind of muddy, murkyish one, and I thought about how I am becoming kind of addicted to dyeing yarn and it is my passion, I thought Opium is definitely the name for this colourway. So that is it. You have seen everything new. All of those beauties will be in the shop. There are a few bags going in as well, but there are quite a lot already in there, and I have very little else to share with you. So yeah, hopefully you join in with the cow. Hopefully you help me continue to make this space community friendly and inclusive and warm and welcoming. And I hope that whatever you are up to, whether it's snowing, whether it's freezing, whether it's sunny, you are getting some time for you and your crafting, and you are filling your cup for the week ahead. Take care. Bye.